medical spending has completely doubled in your lifetime. I mean, just look at your insurance premiums.
Right. It's wild.
Look at the national budget. We are pouring an absolute ocean of money into healthcare right now.
Yeah, billions upon billions.
So I want to ask you a very simple, kind of brutal question. Why does the word cancer still make your blood run cold?
Well, it makes our blood run cold because it feels like this unbeatable enemy.
Yeah,
It feels like a biological lottery, one that we have absolutely no control over.
exactly.
We pour all these billions into research. We build these gleaming, massive new hospitals. And yet the fear remains exactly the same as it was like 30 years ago.
It totally does. And we all tell ourselves this very comforting lie to deal with that fear.
Oh, absolutely.
We look at improving survival statistics,
Yeah.
and we credit the completely wrong things. Like, we think cancer survival rates are getting better because of just generic natural progress.
Right. Like humanity is just naturally getting stronger.
Yeah. Or worse, we think it's because of our lifestyle choices.
We definitely do. We convince ourselves that we are basically jogging our way out of a cancer diagnosis.
Green smoothies to the rescue.
Right. We think buying organic kale is actually moving the needle on national survival rates. It gives us this false sense of armor.
But the data does not care about our feelings.
No, it does not. The data does not care about your diet at all.
So today's deep dive is going to completely dismantle that armor. We are looking at a stack of sources that will, frankly, change how you view human survival.
It's a heavy one today.
It really is. Our primary text is this absolute bombshell of a 2015 working paper from the National Bureau of Economic Research.
And we also have this fascinating 15-part presentation that breaks the research down literally slide by slide.
Yeah, and we are going to go through all of it. So the paper was written by Frank R. Lichtenberg.
Right. And he looked incredibly closely at Canadian cancer mortality, specifically between the years 2000 and 2011.
And he found a truth that is deeply uncomfortable for a lot of people to accept.
Highly uncomfortable.
Because here is the brutal reality we are unpacking today. Without a few thin stacks of pharmaceutical registration papers filed back in the 1980s and 90s.
Just literal paperwork.
Yeah. Without those, the number of Canadians dying of cancer wouldn't be slowly dropping. It would be surging.
Spiking off the charts.
So today we are going to look at the exact price tag of a human life.
We're going to expose the silent, deadly biases happening inside medical laboratories right now.
And we're going to show you why almost everything you think you know about drug prices is totally backwards.
It's a massive shift in perspective. Like, to really understand this research, you have to mentally leave the hospital. You have to step entirely away from the microscope, because Frank R. Lichtenberg is not an oncologist.
He's not a doctor.
No. He is not a biologist peering at mutating cells in a petri dish. He's a professor at Columbia University. He's an economist.
And that is the hook for this entire deep dive.
Yeah.
Because who actually gets to put a price tag on a human lifespan?
Usually we leave that heavy lifting to, like, philosophers.
Or theologians debating the value of a soul, right?
Exactly. But an economist looks at it through a very cold, hard, wide-angle lens.
They just look at the numbers.
Right. This paper does not care how a specific chemical compound actually destroys a tumor.
The biology doesn't matter.
The biological mechanism is completely irrelevant to the math. Lichtenberg is asking one terrifyingly pragmatic question.
Let's hear it.
If we want to buy the human race exactly one more year of existence on this planet, how many dollars do we have to slide across the table?
Wow. It's basically like hiring an accountant to audit the Grim Reaper's ledger.
That's a great way to put it. We aren't looking at the weapons used to fight the disease. We're strictly looking at the receipts.
But to read those receipts, we have to change how we measure the cost of the disease itself. Like, we have to talk about death.
But we can't look at death as just a simple binary, like you are alive or you are dead.
Which is how we usually view mortality rates.
Right. But it's a very blunt instrument. It treats the death of an 85-year-old exactly the same as the death of a 30-year-old.
And death itself isn't the ultimate tragedy here. I mean, death is inevitable for all of us.
Unfortunately, yeah.
The ultimate tragedy is the blank space after the death. The tragedy is the time that was supposed to be yours but was taken away.
And that brings us to the core metric of this entire investigation. The study relies on something called YPLL75.
Okay, unpack that.
That stands for years of potential life lost before age 75. This is the ultimate true measure of the cancer burden.
So let's translate that into real life for a second.
Yeah.
YPLL75 is not just some sterile number on a spreadsheet.
No, it's visceral.
It is the empty chair at a high school graduation.
Yeah.
It's the father who didn't get to walk his daughter down the aisle. It's that retirement trip to Italy that was paid for but never actually taken.
The math is very simple, but it is devastating. If you die of cancer at age 65, you didn't just become a generic mortality statistic.
Right.
You lost 10 years of your life. Those are stolen years.
Stolen time.
Exactly. And the most scientific way to measure the impact of a disease isn't counting bodies. It's calculating exactly how many years it stole from the population.
This totally changes the perspective. Like, we spend so much time obsessing over national mortality rates. We really need to be obsessing over stolen time.
And for context, the presentation notes this really staggering statistic. In Canada, cancer causes almost twice as many of these stolen years as circulatory diseases.
Wait, twice as many?
Twice as many. Because heart attacks and strokes, they're often sudden and they skew older. But cancer? Cancer is the ultimate thief of time.
It just systematically erases decades of human potential.
So if you want to know if our medical system is actually working, we have to see if we are getting those stolen years back.
And this leads us right into what the sources call the data fog.
Oh, this part is wild.
It really is. This is where the numbers get incredibly weird. I want you to picture a graph in your head. We are looking at Canadian health data between 1996 and 2006.
So first, you look at the incidence rate. That is the rate of people actually getting a cancer diagnosis.
Right.
Over that exact decade, the incidence line is completely flat.
That's flat.
It did not drop at all.
I really need you to let that sink in for a moment. All the public health campaigns, all the anti-smoking ads, all the organic food trends.
All of it.
The exact same number of people are walking into a doctor's office and getting the most devastating news of their lives.
But then you look at the YPLL 75 over that exact same decade. The rate of premature death absolutely
You
plunged.
fell off a cliff.
It dropped by 20%.
Make that make sense. This is a massive contradiction. The incidence rate is a flat line, but the death rate is plummeting.
Right.
This totally dismantles that assumption that our healthy habits are preventing cancer. They aren't.
No, the data slaps that idea right down. People are getting sick at the exact same pace. They just aren't dying as fast.
So why is that happening? I mean, that's the billion-dollar question.
The gap between that flat incidence line and that plummeting death line, that is the exact space where human innovation lives.
Right.
That gap is the direct result of technology intervening in biology.
It's a beautiful thought, honestly, like human ingenuity catching us right before we fall.
It sounds great.
It does. But I was reading ahead in the sources, and the next slide completely ruins the romance of it. It turns out this innovation is not an equal playing field.
Not at all.
It is a cruel lottery.
It is a profoundly unequal system. We like to think that medicine advances as this, united front.
Right, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Exactly. We assume that if cancer treatment is improving, it's improving for everyone. But the data from 2000 to 2011 completely shatters that illusion.
So let's look at the variance here. Over that 11-year period, premature mortality for breast cancer plummeted by 20%.
Which is an incredible historic success story.
It is. And lymphoid cancers.
Yeah.
They dropped by an astonishing 27%.
But then the progress just abruptly stops depending on where the tumor is actually located.
Yeah.
Look at oral cavity cancer over that same period. The premature death rate didn't drop. It went up by 6%.
Up 6%.
And female genital organ cancers, up 8%.
Okay, I have to pause and push back here for a second. Because when I see numbers like that, my first instinct is biology.
Naturally.
Right, like, isn't this just bad biological luck? Aren't some types of cancer just inherently meaner, faster, and harder to crack than others?
That is the exact assumption most people make. We assume the oral cavity cancer is just a tougher biological puzzle than the breast cancer.
Sure.
But the economist's lens reveals something much darker. It's not just biological luck. Hidden behind those vastly different survival rates is a ruthless, totally invisible logic.
You are talking about the logic of resource allocation.
Precisely. Survival is not random. Survival is funded.
Man, that hits hard.
It's the truth. If your specific type of cancer does not get the funding, you do not get the extra years of life.
Wow.
And to understand how cold economics translates into a breeding patient, we really have to look at the theory behind this research.
And this is where the deep dive gets genuinely fascinating. We are going to connect abstract economics to your actual lifespan.
Yes.
The study relies heavily on a concept from Paul Romer. He's a Nobel laureate in economics.
Right, Romer developed a theory called endogenous technological change.
Okay, which sounds incredibly dense and academic.
It does, but
Yeah.
the core concept is actually stunning.
So let's unpack it without the jargon. What is he actually saying?
So traditionally, economists thought of technological progress as something that just sort of happened, like the weather.
Just random.
Yeah, it fell from the sky, and society benefited. But Romer argued the total opposite. He said progress comes from inside the system.
Okay.
Our economic output, our growth, it depends entirely on our collective stock of ideas. We literally build the machine that makes the progress.
So how does Lichtenberg apply that to medicine? He takes Romer's stock of ideas and turns it into a very literal concept. I like to think of it as humanity's lifespan bank.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Because every time a researcher discovers a new molecular entity,
Every time a brand new drug is registered by the government,
right, it's not just a corporate product launch.
it is a massive cash deposit.
Mm.
We are taking a new idea and depositing it directly into the lifespan bank.
The paper traces this very stark, minimalist chain of events. So step one is the investment. Millions of research dollars are poured into a laboratory.
Step 2 is the invention. Those dollars are transformed by scientists into a new chemical entity.
An NCE.
Right. A physical molecule that never existed in nature before.
And then step three is the payout. That new chemical entity is injected into a patient and it transforms back into time.
It buys back the stolen years.
Exactly. Money becomes chemistry. Chemistry becomes time.
It's the ultimate alchemy of modern medicine.
Yeah.
But we have to go back to that cruel lottery we mentioned earlier, because the lifespan bank is highly, highly biased.
It is incredibly biased. Inside the gleaming laboratories of Big Pharma, this silent competition is raging.
And no one talks about it.
No. It's a competition for attention, for funding, and for priority. And the stakes of this competition are literal human lives.
The sources include this map of new drugs developed from 1988 to 2013. It's just a snapshot of an entirely unbalanced innovation race.
It really is.
And it explains exactly why some death rates drop while others rise.
So let's look at the numbers. Over that 25-year span, researchers developed and registered 19 completely new drugs for digestive organ cancers.
19 new weapons added to the arsenal.
Right. Now look at the eye, the brain, and the central nervous system. Over that exact same quarter century, how many new drugs were developed for those cancers?
Wait for it.
Barely 5.
19 versus 5. This completely destroys the myth that medicine is just a purely objective pursuit of healing.
Your chance of surviving your diagnosis does not just depend on the skill of the doctor standing in front of you.
It depends almost entirely on the research heat of your specific tumor. Like, is your tumor trending in the pharmaceutical industry? Is it historically well-funded? Is it attractive to venture capital?
And if the answer is no, your account at the lifespan bank is essentially empty. The brilliant scientists are looking at different slides, the funding is flowing to different labs.
And you will pay for that lack of market interest with your stolen years.
It's brutal.
It is. Okay, but let's look at the other side of the coin for a second. Let's say your tumor is highly funded.
Okay.
Let's say you get lucky and the breakthrough happens. A brilliant new drug is discovered this morning. Is it going to save the patient who is dying this afternoon?
No, absolutely not.
Really?
The data reveals this massive, deeply frustrating lag effect. The breakthrough does not immediately translate into survival.
This is the time bomb of modern medicine. Walk us through this lag. Like, how long are we talking about?
So the NBER paper proves this statistically. They mapped the drug registrations against the actual mortality rates.
Oh.
And they found that from year 0 to year 5, after a drug is registered, it has almost zero statistical impact on national mortality.
None at all.
Basically flat.
The drug is approved.
Oh.
It is legally available on the market. But the national death rates do not budge an inch.
People assume a drug starts saving the world the day the FDA or Health Canada stamps the approval paper.
Right.
It's a total myth. The statistical magic simply does not happen early on.
So when does it happen?
The massive drop in death rates, the societal impact we are actually looking for, only erupts 10 to 25 years later.
10 to 25 years. I was trying to wrap my head around this while reading the notes.
It's hard to grasp.
The best analogy I can think of is a supernova in deep space.
Oh, like a dying star.
Exactly. The star explodes, the violent event happens, the massive energy is released into the universe. That's the day the new drug is discovered and approved.
But the universe is vast. It takes years, sometimes centuries, for the light of that explosion to actually reach Earth.
Right. We look up 100 years later and finally see the sky light up.
The drug approval is the explosion in the lab. The drop in national mortality is the light finally reaching the patients a decade later.
But why? I mean, that's the question we have to answer here. Why does a miracle drug sit in the dark for a decade before it starts saving populations?
So the presentation calls this the 10-year cold storage. And the statistics here are just wild.
Wait 'em on me.
They looked at the relative utilization index of 25 different cancer molecules. Basically, they tracked how often these drugs were actually prescribed over time.
Sure.
10 years after a drug is registered, its usage is 10 times higher than it was in year one.
10 times higher. I gotta be honest, when I read that, my first reaction was anger.
Oh, I bet.
I wanted to blame the doctors. I'm thinking, are they just lazy? Are they not reading the latest medical journals? Why on earth aren't they prescribing the absolute best miracle drug on day one?
It's a very natural reaction, but it's a massive misunderstanding of how the medical system actually functions.
Okay, tell me why I'm wrong.
It's not laziness. It is an ultra-cautious relay race.
Caution is the friction that slows everything down.
Exactly. Think about the reality of a new drug. Yes, it has passed clinical trials, but a trial is this sterile, tightly controlled environment with a hand-picked group of relatively healthy patients.
Right, but real life is messy.
Very messy.
Patients have multiple conditions, they take other medications.
Exactly. So when a new chemical is released into the wild, doctors need time to learn how it actually interacts with the human body in real-world scenarios.
That makes sense.
Systems need time to adapt. Hospital guidelines and treatment protocols need to be entirely rewritten.
And debated by committees.
Endless committees.
And there is a financial friction too, right? Older drugs are cheaper.
Always.
Insurance companies prefer to pay for what they know. Plus, older drugs have a long history of known side effects.
So a brand new, brilliant drug enters the world, and it immediately hits this massive wall of human caution.
Yeah.
It has to slowly, painfully grind its way into the daily habits of thousands of individual oncologists.
And that grinding process takes 10 full years.
At least.
But when it finally breaks through, when it finally hits critical mass in the healthcare system,
That's when we reach the peak of proof.
the peak of proof.
This is the moment where the supernova light finally hits Earth. This is where Lichtenberg provides the absolute receipt that the drugs actually killed the Reaper.
So let's set up the grand reveal. Lichtenberg didn't just look at one or two cancers for this.
No, he went big.
He looked at a massive panel of data covering 15 different cancer sites.
He ran a complex regression analysis linking the stock of registered drugs to the mortality rates years later.
And what did he find?
He found a massive, undeniable negative correlation between drug innovation and death rates.
Meaning, when the innovation goes up, the premature deaths go down.
Exactly.
Give me the bottom line. Summarize the math of this study in one sentence.
All right. The chemical formulas registered by scientists between 1985 and 1996 directly dictated how long Canadian citizens lived in the year 2011.
I love that phrasing. The molecules of the past control the breath of the future.
That's exactly it.
The survival of a patient in 2011 was hard-coded by a researcher working in a lab in 1989.
It is entirely deterministic, which leads the study to run a very dark simulation, a counterfactual scenario.
Let's play this dark game. It is a tragic, parallel universe.
Okay.
What happens if we freeze the clock in 1984? What if society decides that medical research is just too expensive and we stop inventing new drugs entirely?
The study calculates the exact toll of that alternate reality.
Okay, lay it on me.
If the pharmaceutical innovations of that 11-year window from 1985 to 1996 had never happened.
The premature cancer death rate in 2011 wouldn't have just flattened out.
No, it would have actively increased
Increased.
by a devastating 12%.
Wait, think about that. Instead of the 9% decline in mortality that Canada actually celebrated in 2011,
Right.
they would have experienced a 12% surge in premature death. The hospitals would have been completely overwhelmed.
And the study translates that percentage into actual human years.
Stolen years.
Yes. Without those specific drugs, there would have been an additional 105,366 stolen years of life in 2011 alone.
Over 100,000 years. Added right back to the Reaper's ledger.
It's staggering.
Imagine wiping out the entire lifespan of a mid-sized city. Every man, woman, and child, their entire lives, just gone.
That is the scale of the tragedy we avoided. Those thin stacks of registration papers from the 1980s formed an invisible shield protecting the population in 2011.
But the sources are very, very careful to point out a crucial nuance here. Not all drugs form that shield.
Definitely not.
Not all innovations are created equal.
No. We need to talk about the Me Too myth. This is a really critical distinction in the data.
We hear about this all the time. Pharmaceutical companies tweaking a molecule just slightly, changing the color of the pill and patenting it as a new drug.
Right.
Are these equivalent generic-style tweaks just a cheap illusion?
So Lichtenberg dug incredibly deep into the chemistry to answer this exact question. He separated the drugs into two specific categories. First, you have new chemical entities, the NCES. These are the entirely novel molecular structures.
And then you have the other category.
Right. Drugs that just belong to the same chemical subgroup.
So chemical subgroup drug is a tweak.
Yes. It's a modification of a mechanism that already exists. It's often referred to as a Me Too drug.
Got it.
A company sees a competitor making $1 billion on a blockbuster drug, so they engineer something just different enough to patent, but fundamentally the same.
And the industry defends these heavily. They say it provides options for patients.
They do.
But the mortality data delivers a massive slap in the face to that argument.
Oh, a total slap in the face. When Lichtenberg controlled for the volume of drugs, the results were incredibly stark.
What happened?
Adding a new drug to an existing chemical subgroup did not significantly lower mortality.
Wow, me too. Drugs do not move the needle on human survival.
No. They might have slightly fewer side effects, sure. They might be a bit easier for the patient to digest. They might create market competition that eventually lowers the price of the original drug.
But they do not buy you more years on this earth.
Not at all.
True survival requires genuine, from-scratch molecular breakthroughs. Every tiny, entirely new chemical structure is a sniper bullet aimed directly at death.
And tweaking an old formula is just an accounting trick. It might save the healthcare system some money down the line.
But it doesn't buy time.
Exactly. Only true, expensive, risky innovation buys time.
And that brings us to the most uncomfortable question of this entire deep dive.
The big one.
The ultimate bargain. Because now we have the actual data. We know exactly how much time was bought, and we know exactly how much money was spent to invent the drugs.
Right?
So exactly how much does 1 year of human life cost?
According to this data, the social cost to buy back one stolen year of life through pharmaceutical innovation is $2,730.
Wait, let that sit in the air for a second. $2,730. That is the cost of an upgraded laptop.
Yeah.
That is a decent, weekend vacation. That is the mathematical price of survival.
The society paid the pharmaceutical companies for the drugs. The drugs gave back 105,000 years of life.
Wow.
When you divide the cost by the time saved, you get $2,730 per year.
Okay, I have to push back hard on this number.
I figured you would.
Because my immediate thought is that these are calculations from 2011 based on drugs invented in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
By 2011, many of those specific drugs had lost their patents. They were generic. Of course, they were cheap.
That's a valid point.
That doesn't reflect the outrageous prices of brand new drugs today.
It's a very fair critique. And the researcher actually anticipated that exact argument.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he ran what we can call the even-if scenario.
Okay, let's hear it. What if we calculate the cost at the absolute peak, brand name, patent-protected prices?
The highest possible cost.
The prices that cause people to literally protest outside of corporate headquarters.
So he adjusted the model. Even if you calculate the cost using the highest possible historical prices of these drugs,
Yeah.
the cost per life year maxes out around $11,000 USD.
11 grand.
11 grand.
To buy a human being an entire extra year of existence?
Mhm.
To give a grandfather 12 more months with his family?
When you look at it through that specific economic lens, it is arguably the most cost-effective transaction in the history of the human species.
Which leads us directly into what the presentation calls the value gap. And this is where our modern outrage completely blinds us to reality.
We spend so much energy screaming about greedy drug companies.
Right.
We protest their profit margins. Politicians build entire campaigns around slashing drug prices.
And look, nobody likes paying for medication. It feels like extortion when you are sick.
Of course it does.
But while we are hyper-focused on the cost, we are entirely ignoring a mountain of free wealth being handed to us.
To understand this wealth, you have to know how economists value life. They use a metric called a quality-adjusted life year, a QALY. Government agencies use this all the time to decide if a new safety regulation is actually worth the cost.
So what's the number? Depending on the specific government study or agency, society values 1 year of human life somewhere between $34,000 and $600,000.
Let's take the higher end of that spectrum. Up to $600,000 for 1 year of healthy life.
That is the inherent value we place on our own time.
Here is the final realization, and it is staggering.
Hit me.
We are paying $2,730 to purchase something that we ourselves value at up to $600,000.
Wow, the return on investment is astronomical.
It creates a massive consumer surplus, the profits extracted by pharmaceutical giants, the billions of dollars they make that we complain about.
It's a microscopic rounding error.
It truly is. Compared to the immense, sprawling dividend of lifespan they leave behind for the human race, their profits are a tiny, tiny fraction of the value created.
They extract a fraction of a penny in profit, and they give us back years of priceless time.
So we have to look at the big picture. We have reached the final bet.
We are currently relaxing in the shade of a tree planted by scientists 30 years ago. The Canadian data proves it beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Pharmaceutical innovation, specifically the creation of entirely new molecular entities, is the singular driving engine pushing back cancer death.
It is not our lifestyle.
Yeah.
It is the molecules.
Our entire survival relies on a continuous chain of chemical invention.
And that brings up a massive, provocative question for you, the listener. If the drugs invented in 1990 saved the lives of the people in 2011,
What exactly are we planting for our kids?
this is the danger of the political moment we are in right now. What happens if our current obsession with slashing drug costs and punishing pharmaceutical companies actively stifles today's innovation?
Are we trying to save a few bucks at the pharmacy counter today, only to accidentally forge an inescapable scythe for our children in the year 2040?
We are so focused on the price tag that we might be bankrupting the lifespan bank.
The history of human survival is looping. The past dictates the future.
Always.
But there is a totally new variable entering the equation today that builds on everything we've just discussed.
This is what I've been thinking about the entire time we've been unpacking this source material. We talked about the 10-year cold storage. The massive lag between a drug being invented and a drug actually saving a population.
It is the defining friction of modern medicine.
Right. But what happens to Paul Romer's theory of endogenous technological change when artificial intelligence enters the chat?
Oh, that changes the entire mathematical model.
We are seeing the dawn of personalized medicine. We are seeing AI models that can fold proteins and simulate chemical interactions in a weekend.
Yeah.
What happens if AI compresses that 10-year lag down to 10 months?
It would completely break the historical correlation. If the lag disappears, the supernova light hits Earth almost instantly.
And even crazier, what happens when we stop relying on blockbusters entirely? The data we looked at assumes a company invents one chemical and millions of people take it.
Right.
But what if AI allows us to invent a completely novel, from-scratch molecular entity for a sample size of one?
A bespoke chemical sniper bullet designed exclusively for your specific tumor.
Exactly. If the cost of generating new ideas drops to near zero because of AI, the lifespan bank is going to experience a period of hyperinflation.
In a good way.
We wouldn't be buying back stolen years for $2,790. We might be printing centuries of human life on demand.
The true arbiters of who lives and who dies aren't the doctors in the hospitals, and they aren't the politicians setting the budgets either.
The arbiters of your survival in 20 years are staring into a petri dish or training an algorithm in a lab right now.
Deciding if your future is actually worth the funding.
Medical spending has doubled, and the word cancer still makes your blood run cold.
But now you know.
The only thing colder is the math required to cure it.